On Monday of this week, we went to court like we do every day, and to our surprise, there was a father who had been separated from his 2-year-old daughter. So that was the youngest daughter or son that we had seen separated, and we were very surprised because parents are not supposed to be separated anymore. There's a court order and there's an executive order from the president. So we started investigating to figure out what happened, why was he separated, and then we learned that the government was apparently questioning his paternity, was alleging that he was not really the father of this girl, that she was his niece instead, and that the documents he had presented, including her birth certificate, was not authentic, counterfeit or forged or somehow not genuine. So we contacted the Guatemalan consulate first to try to confirm if the birth certificate was authentic, and it turned out that it was. The birth certificate that he had was issued by the Guatemalan Civil Registry. It's called the RENAP, and it was an authentic document. And we contacted his family. He has family in the US and his family in Guatemala to confirm, to try to get more information. They gave us the names, the name of the girl, last names, everything matched. We confirmed that the government had separated a daughter from his father. Now, Mr. Perez Domingo is from Guatemala and he doesn't speak Spanish very well. He speaks very little Spanish and speaks Mam, an indigenous language. It was very difficult to communicate with him without an interpreter. To effectively communicate with someone, especially when you're talking about something as serious as challenging whether the child they're with is their daughter or not, it's imperative that you are communicating effectively, and that's why we found a mom interpreter from California. Actually, we had to bring him in from California to help us in the interpretation. The government did not do that. They just went with the Spanish, even though that's not his first language. We went to the consulate to try to confirm the authenticity of the birth certificate. The government did not do that. The US government has the same access to the Guatemalan consulate. They could have called, visited, and say, hey, we suspect this is not an authentic birth certificate. Can you all help us verify? That would have told them that it was in fact a legitimate birth certificate. And that would have been a first step. And they didn't even take that first step. The case of Ms. L is a class action filed in California on behalf of immigrants and asylum seekers who have been separated by the US government. So the injunction says that the Department of Homeland Security is ordered not to separate parents from their children during their immigration proceedings. And in this case, Mr. Perez Domingo was arrested by CBP, Customs and Border Protection, which is a part of the Department of Homeland Security, and they separated him. So it was the Department of Homeland Security that had been ordered by the court in Ms. L not to separate parents from their children that did exactly that. It separated Mr. Perez Domingo from his daughter. Now, an order from a federal court is a very serious thing. You comply with that order, and if you're going to do something that goes against that order, you better have the evidence to support it. So if the government suspected that Mr. Perez Domingo was not really the father of this girl, they should have verified, double-checked, triple-checked to ensure that. Get an interpreter, call the Guatemalan consulate, use other methods to confirm identity of the father of the girl. The government did not do any of those things, and instead, just on a loose suspicion, on someone's hunch perhaps, they went ahead and went against the injunction, the executive order, and their own policy, because CBP has a policy of not referring for criminal prosecution parents traveling with their children, and that's exactly what they did in this case. I suspect the government will take the position that they're not violating the injunction. But as we have seen, the bottom line is that a father was separated from his daughter. And they told us initially that, yes, that it was not his daughter, that he was carrying fraudulent documents. And at that point, we told them, no, we actually verified that the documents are authentic. We have the certification from the Guatemalan consulate. We sent them that, and then they told us on the phone, oh, okay, with that, you are good to go. Meaning that the problem was taken care of, but that was 2 days ago, and Mario is still at a detention facility here in South Texas. His daughter is still at an ORR shelter, and we don't know when they're gonna be reunited. They told us the process to reunite them is underway, but it still hasn't happened. I spoke to Mario today and he's still asking me, how's my daughter doing? When am I gonna see her again? She's so little, why am I not with her? Can I please be with her? And this is the first one we know about in McAllen. And that's the other thing, we're only monitoring McAllen. Who knows what's happening in the other border cities? We hope that the government is not separating families, but I think it's important to keep demanding that the government give answers, hold the government accountable for this. Why are they violating court orders? And why are they going against their own policy? because unless we all do that and keep the government accountable, these things are going to keep happening.